Hi, I'm Elaine from Liberty Lodge Crafts, and today I'm going to show you how to do punch needle embroidery. So, punch needle embroidery. So, we've got our pattern and now we need to know exactly what we need to do it. So, we're going to start with a punch needle tool. This is the tool. This is the preferred tool that I use. There are several different kinds on the market. A lot of them have got needles that you can change the length of, that you can change the needles, but you know what? I've found that there are only more things to get broken with the things, more things to fall apart, and you know, how long do you choose to the needle? You know, it adds a lot of variables that aren't necessary. So this is the one that I use for all of my patterns. Very basic, no moving parts. It ain't broke, I'm not going to try and fix it. And it comes with two threaders as well, because that's the business end there which needs to be threaded. So it comes with two of these. So that's our punch needle tool. So I'm just going to pop that over there. The next thing that we need is thread. Very simple. This is all standard generic embroidery thread which has been split down to 3 strands. All of the patterns that I've designed, they're all based on 3 strands. So you just split it down the middle. I'll show you how to split that later on, but it's just standard embroidery thread. It isn't anything fancy. So pop that to one side. And our hoop. Now this is important. This is not a standard embroidery hoop. This is a super lock hoop. Can you see there? It's actually got a groove in there, and on this side there is a lip. I know this isn't as easy to see, but on there is actually a lip, and the lip fits inside the groove and it locks the whole thing in place so that as you're stitching it will not slip. If you're using a standard embroidery hoop which has just got 2 flat sides, as you're punching the fabric will just slide down, and believe me, I've tried it and it doesn't work, and I've even tried all the fancy tapes and everything you can buy. I've tried everything. These super lock hoops work, so again I just use these for all of my patterns, and this is what I recommend. So that's that. Now next thing here is fabric. Now punch needle embroidery is not the same as punch needle, because traditional punch needle is done with wool and it's done on open weave fabrics, but punch needle embroidery you need a fabric that's got some give in it, because one of the things that's very important with it is tension on your piece of work in your hoop. So the other thing is when because that's a very fine needle, if I hold this needle here and you're punching into a very small area like that, that fabric needs to be very forgiving with that needle going in and out. So all the fabric that I use is 100% polyester. And I know these look like linen, but they are actually 100% polyester. They're a lightweight fabric, and this is a medium weight, just a polyester twill. And that's the fabrics that I use. And the reason we use those is if you use cotton or a polycotton mix, then because of the fineness of that needle, you will actually find that the needle will actually punch holes in your fabric, and then the fabric will actually break down and you won't be able to use it again. Whereas polyester fabric, as the needle goes in, the fibres actually part, and then as you pull the needle out, they will close again behind it and hold it in place. So it makes it much easier to use. So they're the basic things that we need to do our punch needle embroidery. I'm going to show you now how we're going to transfer our design onto our fabric and then put it into our embroidery hoop. So the first thing we do is take our carbon paper and pop it onto our fabric. And this design, we're only going to use a simple little design like this, and we're going to pop it on there like that. Now, one of the things that you have to bear in mind is that it needs to be central so that your hoop will still fit into your fabric. So once you've got that central, so it's no use popping it there and putting your design down there because it won't fit on the fabric. So make sure that it's nice in the middle. Pop that off there. So another little tip is, if you use a different colour pen, the printer prints in black as a standard, But if you use a red pen, for example, which I'm going to do here, you can see exactly where you've been, which on a little pattern like this is fine. If you're doing something that's a little bit more complex, it's quite easy to miss out where you've been. So just go round and round. And again, circles, they don't have to be exactly perfect, because when you come to doing your lines, it's never going to be exactly perfect anyway. So just go all the way around. There you go, take that off there, and when we lift our carbon paper away, there you go, we've got a nice simple design there. So into the hoop it goes. So this is the base of our hoop with our nice ridge in there, our grooved area, so pop it in there, and then this goes on the top. So it doesn't matter which way round you put it. Come on, in you go. There you go. Now it's popped in place. So before we do anything else, we're just going to tighten up that screw. Just pop your finger on the screw or your nail in there to stop it moving, and then tighten that screw. And you're just going to tighten it up until you can start to feel it bite. And as soon as you start to feel it bite, you're going to stop, because now look how slack that fabric is, and we need that fabric really, really tight. So we're going to start pulling our fabric. Now, because of the lip and groove system, it won't slip in here. It'll move a little bit, but it won't slip very much. So as we're tightening it round, we can go all the way around, and then we're going to tighten that again. Again, put your finger on the end of the screw and just give that a really good, now you can see we're starting to come, that gap there is closing considerably. So now, and we're starting to get a bit of tension on there. So give it a tug now, and you've got to go around all the way around, because if you don't, then your image will be distorted. So all the way around. But the other thing to remember is that this is the back of your fabric, the back of your design, I beg your pardon. You're working from the back of your pattern. So where the drawing is, where all your tails are, that's the back of your design. So we're nearly there. Can you hear? That's nice. That's getting there now. All the way around, and then just a little screw every time we go around. And the last time you screw it, it will actually tighten the fabric as well. So there you go. That feels about right there. Again, finger on the screw, and that. Can you hear that? Sounds like a drum. That's how it should be. And there you go. That's how you put your fabric into your hoop. Right, I want to show you how to split threads. Embroidery thread, standard embroidery thread, all comes in 6 strands, but for the pattern, all my patterns, you use 3 strands. They're all based on 3 strands. So what we do is we take scissors, or you can take your punch needle tool, it doesn't matter what you take, but you're just going to fray it like that, quite deliberately, and then you're going to count 1, 2, 3. So if you've got 3 there, you know you've got 3 at the other side because there's 6, and you're just going to take a hold of them like that, and you're going to gently pull. Now, if you've never done this before, I would recommend that you only do about 1 meter at a time, because it can tangle. Do it slowly, and I would actually, although I'm showing you this to demonstrate the process, but I would actually let these hang down. So there you go, and all the way down till you get to the bottom. And there we go, we're coming to the bottom. And when you get to the bottom, you sometimes find that they get stuck, and well, that one didn't, of course, because I'm trying to demonstrate it, but there you go. And that's our 3-stranded embroidery thread, ready for use with our punch needle. So the thing with punch needle is that you work from the back. This is the back of the work. So although that's the side that you're stitching from, it's a really good thing, because all of your tails, all your little ends are on there. You draw your design on the back, which you can't see very much of this because I've almost completed it there, but you can also write your colours on there. This is a piece I'm in the process of designing, so it's just got some notes and things written on the back. But if I'm just going to pull this little piece out again. If you make a mistake, again, it's the simplest of things. You just put your finger over the end and you just pull it out like that. Comes out like magic. There you go. So this is the back of this piece. So I'm going to turn it over now and show you. And you see, that's what it looks like on the front. So you see, and again, this is a rough piece. I haven't finished it off, but there's all the little loops. And these again, you sometimes get these little loops on the front, and all you do with them, I usually wait till I'm finished a piece and do the whole thing all at once, but I don't mind doing this just to show you. So again, you just, all these little loops, see it's got a bit rough there in that piece, there you go, and just trim them off. And once you've trimmed them off the front, just, there you go, that's all smoothed off. I do usually do this at the very end, and I quite often do it when I've taken it out the hoop, because sometimes different angles that you've got it, and you'll see more pieces than others. And I've seen me keep on snipping for 2 or 3 minutes at a piece, but you get the idea of what we're doing. So again, this is the back, and this is basic work. There are some of the patterns that you're working from both sides of the hoop, but this is the basic stitching, all worked from the back. Right, so we're going to start by threading our needle. This is our punch needle tool that we use, and there is the needle there. So to get the threads there, it comes with 2 threaders. So we're going to start by taking one of the threaders, and we're going to put it down the barrel of the needle all the way down until it comes out the bottom. And from there we're going to take our thread, and this is ordinary embroidery thread which we split already to 3 strands, pop it through there, and we're going to pull it, the threader will pull it all the way through for you. There you go. So now that we've got it there, we can thread the needle. So we're going to take the threader, and this time it's going through the eye of the needle all the way down. There you go. The reason you put it all the way down is if you try and do it halfway, it kind of wiggles and jiggles a bit, so it's easier if you put it down, then you're not having to fight with it. Just open it with your fingers, pull the thread through, and then when you pull the threader to the top, there you go, that's your needle threaded, and now we're good to go. With punch needle embroidery, there's only one stitch to master, and that's punch, lift, slide, punch, lift, slide, punch, lift, slide. The needle, as you're fetching it up, never leaves the fabric. You're just scraping it along, and you will feel the needle scratching the fabric as you, I don't know if you can actually even hear that. I'm actually just scraping it along. And your hand is just rocking from side to side. It's resting on the hoop, on your work, and it's supporting. If you've never done this before, I would always recommend that you start on a tabletop, because your arm is supported. Because if your arm isn't supported, you're much more likely to start lifting or wave your arm around and do this, and you can see the mess that that's making. So you need to master the punch, lift, slide, punch, lift, slide, punch, lift, slide. And the actual lifting is the most common mistake that people make. And the other thing to bear in mind is that while on this side you might have a lot of loops, it probably looks okay on the front. I don't know if we can turn it over and have a quick look. Yeah, there's a couple of little gaps, but it's not too bad. So you might think, oh, that's all right, I'll keep going. But the problem with that is you may not have enough thread to finish your piece because all of these loops are on the back. Now, that's our basic stitching with a little error shown in, but also if you make a mistake with punch needle, this is very, very simple, and I'm going to have to do it slowly. Normally I do this fast for effect, but if you make a mistake, you put your thumb over the thread end of the punch needle tool and you just pull gently, and it just pulls out all of your errors, and then you can slide the punch needle tool back down to the top of your work, start of and carry on again. So that's the basic stitch in punch needle. Right, we showed you how to do a nice straight line with our punch, lift, slide and our hands rocking from side to side, but we can't continue in a straight line, we need to turn a corner. Now, what I want to show you is the needle, the thread is coming out the top of the needle there from when we threaded it. So we're always making the stitch behind the thread. Now, when we get to a corner, the thread has to still be behind the thread. So what we have to do is turn it around before we can come back again, so that the thread is still coming out the back of the needle. One analogy is like a sewing machine would. You would take the fabric running behind it from the sewing machine, except in this case it's the needle that's moving, not the fabric. So again, to turn around, to come back again. All the time remembering that there's no tension on your thread, it's just hanging loose, or mine's draped across the tabletop here, but you can hear the popping noise. That's because there's lots of tension on the fabric. Now this time I'm not going to turn the hoop or the tool, and I'm going to show you what will happen. So we're just going to do the same, and now we're just going to come back again. It might take 2 or 3 stitches, but then watch what happens. There you go. And that's because the thread is wrapping itself around the needle. So it's creating tension on the thread. And the one thing is, the thread is we need to have no tension. And the reason we need no tension on the thread and lots of tension on the fabric is because when we punch through the fabric with the threaded needle, it's the lack of tension on the thread that causes the stitch to form. And when we pull it out, pull the punch needle up and out, the fibres under tension in the hoop wrap and tighten back around that stitch and hold it in place, and then we move along to the next stitch. There you go. So again, but once you get more advanced, you won't need to turn the hoop, you can just turn the tool to come back. I've just turned the tool that time. And if you just want to turn the tool, there is one little, I've turned the tool again there to come back again. There is one little tip I can give you, is you can take a dot of coloured nail varnish and just do a straight line up from where the needle and the thread is and pop it on the purple at the bottom there. Just a dab of red nail varnish, and you know that that's always the top of your needle. It's a little visual tip there. And again, we're just turning it around and coming back. And you will absolutely struggle if you don't do that, because again, it won't form the stitches. So just again, turn it round. So I hope that that's been explained nicely for you there. So we've filled in all the section that we're working on, and now we've come to the end, and obviously we've still got the thread in our punch needle. So how we finish that off is we just take our finger, hold the last stitch in place with our finger and slide the thread up, take our snips or scissors and just lift it off. and then you've got your little tail there, which you need to trim off later on and finish it off there. So that was cutting a thread, but what happens when the thread runs out? So as you can see there, the thread is working its way down through the punch needle tool. So just going to keep on stitching, and we're just going to keep on going until it's finished, which will probably be about another 3 or 4 stitches, and then it will just stop. There you go. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to just take our punch needle tool into the last stitch and just lift it up. There you go. And that means that that little tail is now on the back of your work with the rest of the tails and not on the front, so it's something less that you don't have to trim off on the front. Okay, so just like to show you a range of ways to finish your pieces. I mean, here's the traditional piece, which is putting it in a frame. Now you will notice that I haven't got any glass on the pictures, on this picture. It's because I carry them around from show to show, and it just makes it easier. But the other thing is it's nice to be able to touch them. So that's the kind of the most traditional ways to frame a piece. But of course, you can also just make it into a lovely cushion. There you go, very simple. So this is the piece of fabric that the bee was actually punched on. So it's not an applique, it's the actual piece that's just been, I've just turned it over, put a piece of polycotton on the back and stuffed it up, and then hand sewed it round. So that's another piece. Here's a picture which I've done in a slightly different way. So this is I've just cut it out and I've frayed the fabric and just put it onto a board, and this is just PVA glued again. So it's very, very durable, nicely finished, and it's just another different way to do it. And then of course we've got our little basic stuffed hearts. You know, again, just turn it over, stuff them, and these are really very durable. I think people think, you know, when you're punching it that they're not very durable, but actually they are. And the other thing is that every single piece that I've done has been through the washing machine before it's been made up, because I get hoop marks and things from where I'm working, and it's quite easy to do that. So I just pop them. I think on my paperwork it says to hand wash them gently, but I do tend to roll them up in a sock and just put them on a gentle wash in the washing machine. So, and then there's this little piece here, which is a little appliqued piece. Now this piece here, if we turn it over, this piece has been PVA glued on the back. So you put PVA glue, one coat on, you let it dry completely, then you put a second coat on, and when the second coat's dry, you just cut away all of the excess fabric, and that's a little applique which you can put on anything. You can put it on a bag, let's put smaller pieces on hairbands, or whatever you want to do with them. But that's just some different ways to finish your pieces off. Well, that was our little video about punch needle embroidery. I hope you learned something, found it informative, and if you'd like to find out more about it, why don't you check out our shop, Liberty Lodge Crafts, at Etsy. Thanks very much for your time.